What is going on, Dodger fans? Thank you guys for tuning in to the Incline Dodgers podcast. We are presented by BLEAV, TickPick, and Fanduel. Kevin Klein in the house. I'm joined by Ian Neilson, who goes by Ballpark E. Your Los Angeles Dodgers are just a few days away from opening up spring training. They've almost all nearly reported to Camelback Ranch now as they're ramping up for the 2026 season. We've got transactions that just continue to go down every day involving your Dodgers. We'll do a preview of some spring training that's to come, talk about the non-roster invite, dive into some of these bobblehead giveaways, take your questions along the way. For those watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're listening on the audio feed, hit that subscribe button if you're an enjoyer of the podcast. Well, Ian, the Dodgers are just very active, like I just mentioned a second ago. And to maybe to no surprise, Evan Phillips has been brought back to the Los Angeles Dodgers organization, a 1-year, $6.5 million contract. I talked about it all off season long. This was the final piece to finalize a pretty good Dodgers bullpen. What are your overall thoughts on Evan Phillips being brought back to the Dodgers?
Yeah, another example of the Dodgers just ruining baseball with all the money they can spend, right? No, but I think Evan Phillips, he was a key bullpen arm for them for many years, and I love it. I think he's got the capability and the talent to be a guy that is a multi-year reliever in terms of a contract, and the fact that they're getting him for 1 year, I know he's coming off Tommy John, but he was also a relief pitcher. So it's not like they need to count on that as like a bulk arm that's in a pitch, 150 plus innings a year. They can kind of stash him in the bullpen, use him sparingly. He's got one of the nastiest slider breaking pitches I've ever seen. I love it. And I think a big component to their bullpen struggling last year was his absence.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Love the signing because he underwent Tommy John surgery. It looks like back on May 30th of 2025. And again, his season as a whole last year was fairly limited. He only was able to go 7 games and didn't give up a run in that span, but was a very small sample size and probably an unfulfilling year for Phillips. But yeah, he'll be back most likely in the second half of the season. Right now, they're kind of pinpointing maybe a late July return for Evan Phillips, and he is on the 40-man roster as of today. He will be going to the 60-day IL most likely in the next few days when that eligibility opens up. I was a little surprised that the Dodgers had to sign Evan Phillips today and couldn't wait a few more days for that spring training flexibility. But in the event, Ben Rortvedt was DFA'd once again, and we'll talk about Ben Rortvedt in just a couple of minutes here. But I just want to throw it out there that I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think you could make a very compelling case that since Evan Phillips was brought on to the Los Angeles Dodgers, he's been their best reliever during that entire tenure. I mean, you look at his career numbers single-handedly as a Los Angeles Dodger, we're talking about now 5 seasons, a 2.22 lifetime Dodgers ERA, and this is 195 innings, so fairly large sample, a whip below 1, a 277 FIP, and maybe the craziest stat that I recently stumbled upon that I didn't even realize this was the case. He's thrown 15 1/3 relief innings for the Dodgers in the postseason. He is yet to allow an earned run.
So he's clutch. He's a guy that you can rely on in those big spots. And I didn't realize that he's has that low of an ERA and that low of a FIP over that time since he's been a Dodger. I guess I know he's been really good, but I would completely agree with you because Blake Trinan, after what he did last season, of course, kind of unfair to judge that since Evan Phillips didn't pitch last year. Yeah, that is a huge get back in the bullpen. I mean, like I said, his slider that he goes to, because when you're a relief pitcher, you have 1 or 2 pitches you can go back to the well on. Super valuable piece. And again, it kind of feels like, could he step in as the closer if Edwin Diaz, or not Yeah, Edwin Diaz kind of has a moment where he slips up, or if Tanner Scott struggles a little bit more again, could he be their highest leverage arm? Feels a lot like it.
Yeah, if we're looking at the Dodgers bullpen and putting a forecast on what it could be looking like as we get closer to the postseason, you're talking about Edwin Diaz closer, Tanner Scott setup arm, Evan Phillips setup arm, Alex Vesia setup arm, Brusdar Graterol setup arm, and then you've got your other guys that have kind of been proven now as stable forces in the bullpen, whether it's a Jack Dreyer, whether Edgardo Henriquez or Will Klein continue to take the next step, Justin Robleski potentially in some capacity. And so while I'm not going to make the claim right now that the Dodgers have the best bullpen in the entire National League, I'll just keep it at the National League level. I still think the Padres might be better on paper, but the season has to play out. But the Dodgers have a strong case of having one of the top bullpens entering this upcoming season.
Yeah, isn't that funny how, in 1 year you could go from having a weakness that many prognosticators are saying, oh, this is going to be the reason they don't make it to the NLCS against Philadelphia, losing in that series. And now it's potentially a strength. I think a lot of it again will depend on, are their starters going to give them length? Because I think that was really what led to the downfall of the bullpen last year, is they were leaned on so heavily early in the year. You have one guy like Tanner Scott get hurt not too well. You have another guy, get lost to injury, and it all unravels. So a little bit of a domino effect. I would say, whether it's the Robleski, Landon Knack guys that'll have to fill in and eat innings and be effective when someone goes on IL. If they're able to get good length out of their starters, I don't see why this bullpen can't be a top 2 or 3 in the MLB. Honestly, where they're just that talented. They have strikeout guys. That's a big thing with Phillips, strikeout guy. He's complementary to a Brusdar Graterol who struggled to do that. It's a perfect balance in the bullpen.
Yeah, that Evan Phillips sweeper is just absolutely disgusting. And I think you alluded to it a moment ago. They missed Evan Phillips big time last season. They kind of had to stitch things together and kind of put guys in uncomfortable spots out of the pen, whether it was Roki Sasaki, Emmett Sheehan, you name it. Evan Phillips was that guy that they leaned on heavily in a number of high leverage situations throughout the years. And I always have to kind of remind myself, they didn't even have Evan Phillips in the World Series against the New York Yankees either, if I'm not mistaken. He believed he
You're
was
right.
out. I think if I have it, my memory serves correct, Alex Vesia missed the NLCS with an injury, and then Alex Vesia came back, and then we were surprised to see that Evan Phillips was removed. Fortunately, they didn't ultimately need Evan Phillips, but maybe in a different world, if Evan Phillips was healthy, he's the one closing out Game 5 of the World Series instead of Walker Buehler. You just never know. But fortunately for Buehler, he got to captivate and thrive in that moment. And so we get that memory. The last awesome memory of Walker Buehler probably ever pitching again in his career, potentially. Still a free agent. Just throwing that out there. Not for the Dodgers, but in general, it'd be cool to see another team give him an opportunity.
Gosh, at this point in his career, it feels like an Angels type move to get Walker Buehler, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does. Shout out to some comments and our listeners right now. We've got Honey Oats saying people are underrating our bullpen. I would agree with that. I think people are sleeping on how potent the Dodgers bullpen will be entering 2026. BC Dodgers have won more titles this decade, 3, than any Philadelphia sports franchise has in its entire history. Interesting fact. He's just throwing shade at the Phillies in Philadelphia for some reason, but
Who's good with that?
We'll take it. Empire Jeff TV tuning in. He's happy that Evan Phillips is back. We are too. Moose 1032 thinks Padres could lure in Walker Buehler. And honestly, I'm kind of thinking the same. Like at this point, I don't think Walker Buehler is going to make more than $5 million. So why not a cheap team like the San Diego Padres roll the dice? They have nothing else to lose here.
No, they are in a rough financial spot. They're paying off that team with credit cards and debt. It seems like because they went all in, and you got to respect that. But yeah, no, that totally feels like a move. Walker Buehler again. Reason that I'm okay with Evan Phillips and bringing him back. Walker Buehler, you put another couple hundred innings on a second Tommy John, much different, much different than doing it with a relief pitcher who's going to give you maybe 40 innings.
Definitely. One last fun fact about Evan Phillips before we move on. 2022 was just peak Evan Phillips. So this was his first full season in a Dodgers uniform. They had acquired him later in the 2021 campaign when he was DFA'd, I believe. So he didn't pitch a whole lot for the Dodgers, but first full season 2022, appeared in 64 games, 63 innings, had a 114 ERA, a 194 FIP, and an 0.762 WHIP. Filthy.
Yeah, he was unreal. That was that year that they won 111 games. I remember me and all my boys in college were on the Evan Phillips All-Star train that year. We were flabbergasted that he didn't make it that year.
Yeah, the guy has been damn good. So hopefully that was enough Evan Phillips glazing for those that were on the fence about bringing him back. But they did non-tender him earlier in the offseason, which made sense to me. They wanted to open up the roster spaces, knowing that this guy was going to be out for a fat duration of this upcoming season. And they bring him back. He actually gained some money. He was projected to make around 6.1 million. They rewarded him for his patience. He now gets 6.5 million. But I mentioned there had to be a casualty along the way. And that guy, unfortunately, for the second time this offseason, is Ben Rortvedt. So he got DFA'd once again. I'm honestly not too surprised because if you put all the pieces together, it goes back to what I said initially to kind of kick off the offseason. You've got Will Smith, you've got Dalton Rushing. You don't really need three catchers on the 40-man roster, especially when a guy like Ben Rortvedt doesn't have minor league options. So he would have had to make the opening day roster. So instead, they're going to roll the dice yet again. And this time, they're hoping that nobody puts a claim in on Ben Rortvedt. But before I elaborate even further, just going to pass it back to you to get your general thoughts on Ben Rortvedt being DFA'd.
Yeah, maybe I'm completely tuned out, but I think it's a chilly day in hell that Ben Rortvedt doesn't get a claim put in on him. If you're an MLB team and you saw the way he stepped up for the Dodgers in the playoffs, I mean, because catcher is a defensive first position, that's a known thing. He calls an incredible game. There were flashes of power. I mean, they didn't call him Benny Biceps for nothing. But he's an excellent defensive catcher. I'd be shocked if the Dodgers actually are able to retain him. And I was a little interested. I was thinking at first when they got Rortvedt back, I'm like, ooh, is this Dalton Rushing being included in some sort of trade? Because it feels like if there's a guy they're going to move off, possibility it could be Rushing, a catcher, not really a core need for the team in the next couple years. But that's not the case.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like Dalton Rushing would make a lot of sense in many trade packages just because there is a need for catchers out there. So with Ben Rortvedt, the timing of this is going to be a little dicey in my opinion because the 60-day IL spots do open up, I think, on Friday. And so if the timing works out, potentially I don't know if the timing will work out. I have to double check the facts here, but there is a scenario I think where you can put in a claim for now Ben Rortvedt, knowing that you have those 60-day IL spots available, which might entice a team more to be more likely to add a guy like Ben Rortvedt to your roster. I don't know if any team is going to do that. The last roll around when the Reds had DFA'd Ben Rortvedt, the Dodgers were team 30 of 30 that were eligible to claim Ben Rortvedt off waivers. So no other team put a bid in, obviously. And so now we get a reset. Obviously, the other 29 teams, they get a crack at, do they want Ben Rortvedt? I have no idea. I cannot tell you what's going to happen. I didn't think Michael Ciani was going to get claimed so many times, and he seems to be a hot commodity.
Yeah.
Teams have been very weird, but yeah, we'll see what happens with Ben Rortvedt. But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he survives this DFA waiver wire claim and gets outrighted off the roster to Oklahoma City. I could see a team kind of wanting to screw the Dodgers over and just pick them up to spite us.
Yeah. I mean, that's that seems to be the general sentiment of a lot of ownership groups and front offices right now, to stick it to the Dodgers in any way possible. So, what better way to do that than with a a backup third string catcher?
Exactly. All right, so we've got spring training coming up fairly soon. It's going to commence later next week. The Dodgers invited a ton of guys to spring training this year. I wanted to kind of highlight maybe some names that are worth noting. There are a lot of names, but sorry, I'm just pulling up the list real quick, kind of thinking who might be worth pointing out. But 17 non-roster invites for the pitcher side of thing were invited for the Dodgers for 2026. So I'll just rattle off some names, then stop at maybe a name worth noting. So Chris Campos, Patrick Copen, Carlos Duran, Jackson Ferris, Luke Fox, Nick Frasso, Carson Hobbs, Cole Irvin, Antoine Kelly, Garrett McDaniels. So I'll stop there real quick and kind of point out a couple names worth noting. So Nick Frasso was at one point a top prospect for the Dodgers. Then he got non-tendered. Then they actually brought him back on a minor league deal off the 40-man roster. So I believe for a guy like Nick Frasso, this is kind of your make it or break it spring training. He's going to need to go out there and prove himself. Otherwise, I have a unfortunate feeling the Dodgers are going to cut bait with him. Cole Irvin, guy was in the KBO last year. He's been fairly bad throughout his major league career. He's bounced around on a few teams. He's a lefty. I don't know what they expect out of Cole Irvin, but he is on the roster. Garrett McDaniels was someone that was actually taken by the Angels in the Rule 5 draft. Didn't do well, obviously, in Anaheim. Got sent back to the Dodgers. He could be kind of like a Gus Varland situation where I wouldn't be surprised if Garrett McDaniels makes an appearance for the Dodgers at some point. Were there any names here that stood out to you, or should I keep going?
Well, maybe we're gonna go off the beaten path for just one quick second. But you mentioned Cole Irvin, and maybe this is just the bias in me. But growing up in the Orange County area, I played high school baseball, of course. And funny enough, our coach was once at Servite, where Cole Irvin played. So Cole Irvin actually used to come coach us at my high school. And the funny thing is, just thinking about that, it would be like kind of an interesting homecoming having Cole Irvin come. Because I remember batters used to try to take a crack at him when he was just coming out of Oregon. Of course, nobody could touch him. One thing throughout his career is he has done a good job of limiting walks, and he has real MLB experience. Totally feels like he feels like an innings eater for the Dodgers at this point. But like I mentioned, for a team that kind of likes to use the Phantom IL spot, maybe that's an interesting piece. His numbers definitely were not there in 2024, but he was a reliable back end of the rotation innings eating guy, and Nick Frasso too. Like you mentioned, I think this is his make or break. A really good spring could mean good things for the Dodgers, whether that's cashing in on him or giving him a chance to be a bullpen arm even.
Absolutely. Continuing down the list, so the last few guys worth mentioning: Wyatt Mills, never heard of him; Jose Rodriguez, Jerming Rosario, Ryder Ryan, who happens to be River Ryan's brother, Adam Serwanowski, Jordan Weems, and Lucas Wepf. So Nothing here really worth pointing out other than Jose Rodriguez is a potential interesting name. Now, he does struggle overall with his ERA across both AA and AAA. He had a 5.50 ERA and a 1.5 whip, but the guy has nasty strikeout stuff. So 84 strikeouts across 54 innings thrown. This guy feels like a total project where if he can get his command down and master the strike zone better, wouldn't be surprised if this is a potential, future name that the Dodgers tout out of their bullpen one day.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what these roster spots are for, right? It's just to get these pieces who I guess are reclamation projects to a degree. I think that I don't want to ever say ERA is overrated or it doesn't matter because, of course, that's a good way to judge how good a pitcher is in terms of giving up runs. But I think if you're able to find a guy that you can use in a niche situation, maybe they have a pitch or two that you like, you feel like this is a way to work around them. Really, really low risk, high reward thing. And a guy like Rodriguez, you mentioned, totally feels like that. Of course, that's not to mention whether it could be the high leverage guys like a Jackson Ferris showing up to spring and kind of, maybe coming on the scene quicker than we realize and finding out that, hey, kind of in the way Ross Stripling came on to spring training out of nowhere and earned the spot as a starter. That could be another name to watch, of course.
Yeah. So when it comes to opening day, I don't think any of these non-roster invites are going to make the opening day roster, to be quite transparent. But you never know if some of these guys end up cracking the Dodgers roster later on. Outfielders wise, there are some top prospects that they're going to give some spring training reps to. Right out of the gate, you see Josue DePaula, who potentially could be called up from the Dodgers or from the minors later this year for the Dodgers. Zach Erdhart, who they got in that Dustin May James Tibbs trade, and James Tibbs is also in here. Both of them are non-roster invites. Kendall George, they used a top draft pick on him a couple of years ago. Very speedy guy, steals a ton of bases. Zaire Hope, they got him in the Michael Busch trade. He's been invited, and Chris Newell. Catchers wise, there's a bunch of different catchers. I don't even think it's worth mentioning those guys. Infielders, Matt Gorski, Ryan Fitzgerald, who they claimed off waivers earlier in this offseason, then DFA'd him. He survived. He's in the Dodgers organization. Noah Miller and Nick Senzel, who once was a top prospect for the Cincinnati Reds, has kind of failed to really showcase himself at the big league level. Came to the Dodgers at some point last season, hung around the minor leagues. Any names you want to talk about here? Otherwise, I don't really have much to add.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to spend too much time, digging into the lore of non-roster invites, but Nick Senzel was, like you mentioned, a top prospect, and I think he kind of fits the mold of what the Dodgers always look for in players. He's versatile. He can play infield, outfield. He played for the Reds organization. They haven't really had a history of developing great hitters in the last handful of years at all. So that's interesting to see if his versatility, can he put up numbers that makes him a guy on the Dodgers bench. We know that, with the history they've had with Chris Taylor, Max Muncy, Justin Turner, getting the most out of guys, that's interesting. Of course, it would be interesting to see where those top prospects land. Does DePaula, I know he's allegedly had some struggles with defense, but I think maybe do we get a chance at seeing him DH, possibly play first base for when Freddie's time comes to a close.
Speaking of DePaula, we've got a question from Honey Oats, and that's a reminder to the live listeners right now. If you've got questions for me or Ballpark E, we're here to read from you guys. But for Josue DePaula or Zaire Hope, I think I've answered this and have been consistent for a while now. But for me, it's Josue DePaula. I think the bat is just going to be more special. I really think this guy has the tools to establish himself as a fairly quick impact MLB hitter. The comp, which, maybe it's a fair comp, maybe it won't be a fair comp, but a lot of people say he's similar to Yordan Alvarez with a lot of his hit tools. And I would be thrilled to have a second crack at a Yordan Alvarez in a Dodgers uniform. I know Ian mentioned it a second ago. There are some kind of gaps in his defense, and that might hinder him a little bit in terms of how the Dodgers can utilize him. Hopefully he can play some left field. Otherwise, they'd have to wait for, I guess, Freddie Freeman to leave to move him at first base. So I don't really know. I don't know truly how bad of a defender he is until I get to see some live action. And I think he could improve. So I'm not going to write that off immediately. But yeah, I got to go DePaula. I think he's going to be a special talent. And there's a reason he's the top Dodgers prospect right now in most pipeline rankings.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go in a little bit of a different direction because I think I agree with you. DePaula's bat, his hit tool is incredible, and everyone compares him to Yordan Alvarez. That's amazing, of course. But I think to myself, when's the last time we really saw that five-tool kind of Dodgers outfielder? I mean, to me, the last guy I can really think of, I mean, excluding Mookie Betts, that came up as a Dodger was like a Matt Kemp. Yeah, Yasiel Puig, of course, those are huge expectations, but Hope's ability, I think, to be more than just a corner outfielder. His hit tool still is a plus hit tool. I'm excited to see what he can bring. I watched him in spring training last year. Seems like he's really just shot through the rankings too. So definitely a lot to be excited about. I mean, steaks too buttery, lobsters too juicy. It's a good time to be a Dodgers outfield prospect.
Yeah, the last Dodgers call up from his call up to the conclusion of the season that I feel like was just awesome, consistent, and really delivered probably was Cody Bellinger when they called him up in 2017. I believe it was April 25th. It was against the Giants, and right out of the gates, the dude was hitting home runs, and he was hitting home runs in the World Series. And he did strike out a lot against the Astros, but I don't care. He was good the entire season. Had a couple slumps here and there, but that 2017 Cody Bellinger rookie season, that was some special stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we're. My prediction on that is not even a guy that was mentioned. To me, Mike Sirota, who we haven't talked about hardly at all, he, to me, is going to be that next great Dodger out. I mean, I don't know. I've watched him hit. He's got an incredible bat path. He can square up the ball quickly. And to think that essentially the Reds gave him away for Gavin Lux, who's already now playing for the Rays.
Yep.
Big, tall outfielder. I'm shocked that happened. But yeah, I think we need another one of those guys. And no offense to Andy Pajes, big struggles in October definitely kind of ended that on not the greatest note before the catch.
Totally. Yeah, Sirota wasn't on the non-roster invites. It might be because he's dealing with some injuries. I know that's what cut his season short last year, so it might be a health reason. Otherwise, I would have to have thought he would have gotten the invite, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. So let's talk about some other spring training storylines that we just want to hit on. We'll do a couple quick ones. But before we do that, I want to turn our focus to our partners here at Fanduel. And obviously, Kyle Tucker is going to be a highly talked about subject all throughout spring training. Even though these games won't be a reflection of how his Dodgers tenure actually goes, I'm sure there's going to be people out there scrutinizing what Kyle Tucker looks like. But getting into now what I saw on FanDuel, and probably one of my favorite prop bets entering the season that I would love to hammer the over on, it's got Kyle Tucker 27.5 home runs. You can take the over of minus 113. The under is the same, minus 113 of 27.5. But I'm going to say it right now, if healthy, I think Kyle Tucker is a lock for 30 home runs.
He feels like a 40 home run guy if he stays moderately healthy. Maybe that's overly optimistic, but having Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts to protect you in the order goes a long way.
Absolutely. So if you want to take advantage of that on FanDuel, 27.5 home runs for Kyle Tucker. Maybe get on that now before it potentially gets juiced up if he's balling during spring. But we'll see. I like the take there from you as well, Ian. So from Craig Osterberg, who is your sleeper to make the Dodgers roster? This is a tough question because whether it's fortunately, I guess, there aren't really that many sleepers I would say that, would be a surprise to make Dodgers roster. Do you have any names that you would consider a sleeper though?
Because you can't really consider a top prospect a sleeper, right? Like Alex Freeland
Right.
wouldn't really make sense as a sleeper. I mean, I think we don't know what's going to happen with Kike Hernandez for sure yet. Why I think a guy like Nick Senzel's a person to keep your eye on. The Dodgers tend to prefer giving guys like Hanser Alberto. I know he didn't get the chance last year. David Bodie played really well in spring and kind of came close to possibly making the roster. I think it hinges on Kike. If Kike's not signed, opens up the door for maybe a Nick Senzel, Alex Freeland. If you want to go the prospect route, that's kind of where my mind's at.
Yeah. So for now, of all the non-roster invites, I will say none of them make the roster. So
Probably
I have
not.
to look at the 40-man roster, and whether this is even a sleeper or not, I don't know. But I'll go with Hae-Sung Kim. I'm going to say he makes his stock rise tremendously this spring. And whether he was already a lock or not, who knows? But I think Kim will solidify himself as a Dodgers opening day MLB guy with a good spring. So I will lean on Kim.
Yeah,
More
that's
questions.
a great pick.
DePaza, can we expect Blake Trinan to bounce back after his poor end to last season? It was a very rough 2025 for Blake Trinan, no doubt about it. So here's what I'll say. So Blake Trinan is now 37. He'll be 38 in June. If he plans to pitch further in his big league career, I don't know how many more years he has left in him. So this could either be his farewell season, which wouldn't shock me, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if Blake Trinan hangs it up after this year. But if Blake Trinan does try to plan to pitch at least one more season after this one, I think he'll for sure pitch better. I mean, he can't really get much worse than a 5.40 ERA and a 1.8 WHIP, if we're being quite honest. So I do think he'll bounce back. Do I think he'll revert back to peak Blake Trinan form? Probably not. But if he has an ERA in the high threes, I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was so bad in September and October. Is he going to be a guy that maybe they could, have pitch less leverage innings? Yeah, but I would much rather bank on Tanner Scott to be the guy that bounces back over Blake Trinan.
Definitely. All right, spring training storylines now. So for me, it would be a shame to not lead off what I think is the most important spring training storyline, and that involves Roki Sasaki. Roki Sasaki is what is there to say? He's in year 2 now. He's coming off a fairly disappointing rookie campaign where he truly struggled as a starting pitcher. Redeemed himself a little bit by coming out of the bullpen and playing some heroics in that capacity. But at the end of the day, Roki Sasaki is here to be a major league starting pitcher. And in year 2, there's a lot of emphasis that he needs to find a third pitch. So there's been talks that he might work in a cutter or a two-seamer. It seems like the slider is on pause for now. It hurt his shoulder and it wasn't highly effective. I think Roki Sasaki starts during the spring are going to be a must watch for me. I mean, it's almost like a foregone conclusion that they're going to lock him into the Dodgers starting rotation. But what is his velocity going to look like? What are these pitches going to look like? It's just, where's your head at when it comes to Roki Sasaki?
Look, maybe I'm being ignorant when I say this because I don't know exactly what their planning to do with the World Baseball Classic. But when it comes to the regular season, do not force that third pitch until you're ready. I think his stuff looked excellent coming out of the bullpen in October. I think it's weird. You could say he completely rewrote his rookie season because of how good he was in October. There's been plenty of times we've seen guys like a Kevin Gausman have too many pitches that they throw. Their pitching coach simplifies it for him and says, this works for you, locate them like these, do that. I'd say if they ease him into having a new pitch, that's great. He shouldn't be throwing anything that hurts him. But he's got great velocity. He can whip it. Make that the foundation of what he builds off of. And I think the rest will come. There's not a lot of pressure on him. He already pitched in the World Series. He's pitched at the highest level. Philadelphia fans are screaming at him in the bullpen. It didn't faze him. Ease into that third pitch, Roki. Just do what works for you. Make it happen selectively in games.
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic that Sasaki is going to elevate his game to the next level. I think, getting that rookie season out of the way will play big dividends for Sasaki. Like you kind of were talking about, he just pitched in the world's biggest stage now, going through the World Series. He's got Yamamoto, he's got Ohtani, he's got a lot of people on his side, and they're going to want to root and help him be a successful big league pitcher. So I think we're going to see some good things from Roki Sasaki. I'm not going to lie. They have to be very smart and tactful with how they use him because he does have history with injuries. He does have history with flaming out and not being able to pitch an abundance of innings during a regular season. So you have him shoot out of the gate in April. Wouldn't be surprised if there's some periods where he's on the IL for some extended periods of time. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they manage Roki Sasaki's workload. And we're already seeing that with Blake Snell. He'll probably start the season on the IL. I have a gut feeling that Justin Wroblewski is going to be the first man in the Dodgers rotation to fill in that gap. Just saying it right now. You lose a lefty, you replace that lefty with Wroblewski. That's my initial feeling, is that Wroblewski is going to be the first guy up for Snell.
Yeah, I think that's the right take, because while I do believe Gavin Stone and River Ryan are maybe a little bit higher, especially Gavin Stone, he was the best pitcher. And I was talking about this with my friend. He was their best pitcher in 2024, really. You want to replace a lefty with a lefty. And these guys are also coming off injury. You don't want to rush them into something they're not ready for.
Absolutely. So we talked about Kyle Tucker. We talked about Sasaki right now. I already kind of alluded to Kim. For you, Ian, are there any other spring training storylines or things that you're kind of be paying attention to as we start to kick off, as some might say, one of the chillest times of the year for baseball fans?
Yeah, I think we've kind of covered everything on the pitching side. It feels pretty cut and dry. They've got their guys. They've got their guys coming back from injury. They've got their new bullpen pieces. To me, the thing that's really going to be interesting is to see, and this is kind of brought up to one of my good friends who I talk to quite a bit, that's a big Dodgers fan and researcher, is to see how Freddie Freeman looks. Weirdly enough as it is, he's been noted as a guy that a lot of people think is actually headed for regression this season. A lot of his baseball savant and advanced metrics looked like they kind of took a dive from where they were, in terms of hard contact rate and things like that. So I'm personally really interested to see how Freddie Freeman looks, how his swing looks, his contact rate, how hard hit the balls look. Very interested at that storyline. He is aging.
According to the Shredder on MLB Network, he is the number one first baseman heading into 2026. That might be a little bit too optimistic for me, but you got Vladdy, you got Matt Olson,
That's
but
crazy.
Hey, Freddie Freeman, number one, according to the Shredder. Will Smith is, I think, number two, according to the Shredder, for the catcher's positions. And then Edwin Diaz for relief pitchers was number three.
Maybe I'm biased. Will Smith is number one still for me as catchers. No disrespect to Cal, but Will just he gets on base a lot, and he's a much higher contact
I
rate guy.
mean, a guy that hits 60 home runs as a catcher, he's getting my vote as number one.
Yes, but I don't think that's going to happen again this year.
Probably not.
He's
That would be surprising for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Freddie was worse in 2024 than he was in 2025, according to BC. While that might be true in the regular season, because I do remember Freeman had a really good 2025. That was probably one of the most under the radar, not talked about elite seasons that any Dodgers player put up, just because Ohtani's obviously stealing the spotlight. But Freeman in 2024 on the bad ankle in the World Series will probably be the best World Series performance I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Yeah. The best. More than Mad Bum even.
True. Just the last player I'm going to quickly point out and then start to segue our final segments here. Bobby Miller, worth pointing him out. Guy's just been a train wreck. Fabian Ardaya wrote in The Athletic that the Dodgers were trying to shop Bobby Miller, but he essentially has zero trade value at this point. And so they probably couldn't even get him for like an 18-year-old guy who just signed out of who has no stats, no nothing. Like, you couldn't get anything for Bobby Miller at this point. So here's a guy that's going to need to start proving himself in spring training, or we're going to have the unfortunate conversations where Bobby Miller might just get outright released. And that'd be a shame.
Again, another hot take, another, potentially freezing cold take. I'll never unsee what I saw against the Cardinals in that game. That I think it was like the second game of the season on Apple TV. He's been a train wreck since that moment. But I think I really do believe he's got a future as a relief pitcher. There is too much ability and talent. If anyone can figure it out, it's the Dodgers pitching coaches. And if they eventually shop him, there's going to be a lot of 29 other teams that are going to be pissed that they didn't get him for free right now. I really do believe that.
Absolutely. Last call for questions. So if you got questions for myself or Ian, get them in the chat right now and hit the like button if you haven't hit that like button for us. So quick couple topics here. Dodgers giveaways, they were announced. And I know, I think it was Dodgers Dugan who asked about it last episode. He got his wish. The giveaways were announced. And I got to give credit where it's due. The Dodgers have really stepped up their game when it comes to these bobbleheads. Like, these are some elite bobbleheads. Like, I'll highlight some quick ones real quick. We got the Will Smith Game 7 home run bobblehead. That's on March 28th, it looks like. You've got a Miguel Rojas Game 7 home run bobblehead. That's May 8th against the Braves. And if there was a bobblehead that, feels like a must get for me, it's probably that Miguel Rojas May 8th one. But the ticket prices are probably going to be crazy high at this point. But I mean, what a collectible if you have an opportunity to get that Miguel Rojas bobblehead. You've got a Yoshinobu Yamamoto Game 7 last out bobblehead, and that's May 27th against the Rockies. There's a ton of other bobbleheads. Another one worth noting, Mookie Betts Game 7 double play bobblehead, Friday, June 19th against the Orioles. Let's see if there's any other ones worth pointing out. And then I got some beef, which I'll elaborate in a second. But yeah, those are the top ones. Were there any bobbleheads that you scrolled through that you felt like, shit, that's an awesome one, or I need to get that?
I don't know if this is going to be the one you have beef with. So of course the Game 7 series is incredible. As a Dodgers fan, I love it. I think it's just they're knocking it out of the park. The Kobe Bryant one they've had in the past, they always find ways to just lead the league in giveaways. Nobody does it like them. There is an interesting one. It's a soccer player, I guess they're making a bobblehead of, that I've never heard of because I just don't watch soccer. Personally, I love it because I think if the Dodgers can do everything they can to expand and, put their arm out, extend the olive branch to bring in other fans to this game, even if it's something that I have no idea about and many people may not have any idea about. I think it's a brilliant marketing technique. It's just my 2 cents.
Glad you brought that up. That's
I had a
going to
feeling.
lead me. It's going to lead me to one of my takes. So one of my opinions over the last few years has been there's just way too many damn bobbleheads now, and when you've only got like 81 home games and over 30 of them are bobblehead nights, it makes your options a little slimmer to try to find cheaper games because every bobblehead night all of a sudden gets inflated from $30 more for some guy I don't give a shit about to potentially $100+ more if it's some like elite, unique, original, one of a kind, whether it's the Otani bobbleheads that everyone goes crazy about or these awesome collectibles, obviously like a Miguel Rojas one, which, I get those. But one of the ones that I have no idea, what the hell are the Dodgers doing here is why is there a Shaquille O'Neal bobblehead night? You've already got, and this is Father's Day weekend to add to that matter. So you've got June 19th. That's the Mookie Betts bobblehead. Now you've got a Shaq bobblehead the second night. And then on Father's Day itself, which I'm sure will be expensive in its own right, because it's a holiday and there's a Father's Day giveaway. You've got that whole weekend series against the Orioles where all the tickets will probably be expensive. But why are we doing a Shaq bobblehead? What? It's been 21 years now since he's been traded, 22 years, something like that. What the hell are we doing here? Either this is like a homage to when the Lakers won their three-peat, and so the Dodgers are like, well, we'll honor Shaq to honor our three-peat, potentially, but that seems like a stretch. Or it's just the Dodgers felt like honoring Shaq, and I don't get that one. Unnecessary. I feel like half the fan base now never saw Shaq play a game.
I would guess like upwards of 75% of the fan base, to be honest with you. The Shaq one's a little odd. Whereas like I said, the soccer player, I kind of get you're really kind of zeroing in on that market in like Asian Americans or just people from Asia that come as tourists. The Shaq one's a little peculiar to me because Kobe Bryant, of course, LA legend. I love when they did the Caleb Williams one a couple years back because currently going on in
Unnecessary.
LA. I see your point in one sense because I'm a Dodgers fan my entire life. I didn't jump on the bandwagon in 2020. So I remember when the Bleacher Beach was a thing and McCourt was running the team and you could go to Dodger games for $5. Well, at this moment in time, those days are just not a thing. If you want to pay $5 to go to a game, hop on, go down the 5, hit the 57, go to Angel Stadium, and you can go to a game for really cheap and put money in their pockets so that owners don't have to complain about baseball being unfair. But I agree with you. It's the biggest downside is it's going to be hard for fans, especially folks that have a family like you, to be able to bring the whole family to many games. They also structure the bobbleheads to be not on weekends a lot of times because the weekend games are already more expensive. So they want to maximize the weekday Colorado Wednesday night games. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, and then speaking of, so I know he's a star player. I know he plays for the Galaxy, but pardon me if I butcher this pronunciation, but Sun Heung Min, they're doing a bobblehead night for this guy.
Yep.
I need to look up how many seasons he's played for the LA Galaxy before I truly get into LAFC. Yeah, LAFC. Apparently, he joined them in 2025. So he's only played in 10 games, it looks like, and they're already giving this guy a bobblehead. What the hell are the Dodgers doing here? I would get it if he was an LAFC legend and established himself. But the guy is 33. He's been here for one season, I guess, and we're already giving this guy a bobblehead night? Is this just to appease the Korean fan base because they didn't want to do a Hae-Sung Kim bobblehead this year? I mean, I'm not doubting his talents. He's a star. He's earned his legacy and all that. but there's just no crossover with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I don't get it. Waste of time, waste of money. We don't need his bobblehead night.
Yeah, it's peculiar. It's peculiar to say the least on the outskirt, but I think in a lot of ways the Dodgers are striking while the iron's hot. They're back-to-back World Series champions. There's a lot of folks that still are not baseball fans that like sports, and what better time, especially when the hype is at the highest, try to capitalize on bringing in new fans. I think it's why in the NFL, they're looking past Ohtani. They want to be able to pay off those.
They want Koreatown to go to Dodger Stadium. Is that what's going on?
What happened?
They want Koreatown to come to Dodger Stadium.
Hey man, they want all of LA, man. They want to not see an empty seat. They want to say 5+ million sold out at the end of the season, and then do it again and again and again, and just kind of, make it a money pit.
All right. The last one I'm just going to quickly say, and then let's just get into our final thoughts and get on out of here. I'm sorry, but after the way he pitched last season, Roki Sasaki does not deserve a bobblehead in 2026.
By LaRoki, though. I mean, the NLDS, he would have been the NLDS MVP if they gave out an award. He was money in the plan.
I would have given it to Teoscar probably, but
fair.
My reason is I feel like we're coddling him a little too much. Like, come on, man, start proving yourself. Yeah, he was awesome in the NLDS, but after that, he kind of was a struggle bus out of the bullpen yet again. He's not bobblehead. I thought the whole point of bobbleheads was you're honoring like legendary star players or current star players. You've got Miguel Vargas and James Outman bobblehead nights. Now you're doing these Roki Sasaki bobblehead nights.
That was insane.
We're pushing it a little too much here. There's too many damn bobblehead nights.
We crossed the threshold on that James Outman, Miguel Vargas. That was asinine of a bobblehead night to have. I can't believe that was a thing. That we crossed the threshold with that one. From then on out, we're gonna be having like Austin Barnes Memorial like bobbleheads someday at that point.
Yeah. I think there was an Austin Barnes bobblehead night at one point.
Well deserved once upon a time, but
yeah. All right.
Yeah, no bobblehead changed.
I really appreciate you joining. Anything else you want to cover real quick?
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of covered every possible topic we could. I'm surprised we were able to fit in that much content in that amount of time. But yeah, Valentine's Day's around the corner, and the next thing you know, it's full go. All attention's turning to baseball. I'm unfortunately going to have to buy my SNLA Plus subscription again for the year and start watching spring training games. It's going to be a fun $30 a month to throw down to that. But I'm stoked. I was baseballed out, and I'm ready for it again.
You got any Valentine's Day tips for the listeners out there?
Yes. Do not, and this is mostly for the gentlemen, do not try to say, hey, what about we do Valentine's Day the day after? Doesn't go well. Does not seem like something I would recommend. Not in my experience.
Okay, so this is a good thing you brought up, because I do feel like this is very valid for, the first few years of dating. Like, you're shooting yourself in the foot if you do try to like skate around Valentine's Day. Like, unfortunately, like when you're in the early stages of a relationship, you probably have to do the Valentine's Day on the actual night. You just have to take it like a man and suck it up. But once you're in a committed relationship, like long term, it's been a few years, or you're married, or you're just, you're committed to each other, whatever. The move is to do exactly what you just did not recommend, and that is to pivot the Valentine's Day dinner to another night, whether it's that Saturday or the day after or whatever, because you'll learn that it's just smarter financially.
Oh yeah. Oh no, definitely envy your position. It's a good spot to be, especially next year with Super Bowl and Valentine's Day colliding. That's going to be a fun one to figure out. I'm going to start Sean McVay scheming up in here to figure out that one.
Hopefully the Rams are in that Super Bowl.
Fairly confident that Xavier Smith, that lying down to catch the punt, still breaks my heart, especially seeing how the Patriots put up a fight against Seattle.
All right. Well, I actually had another topic that I didn't even have time for tonight. So turns out that when me and Ian get together, we can fill an hour pretty easily. But next time I do this show, I promise that I'm going to rattle off the worst signings in Andrew Freeman's Dodgers tenure and then continue down the line to get to the best signings. But a little preview here. Noah Syndergaard, he will be in that list of worst signings.
Wonder where he places. I don't think he can be put at the worst spot, but that's like a graveyard with Scott Kazmir and Brandon McCarthy. I don't know whoever the hell else is in that list. That's going to be Josh Reddick. Did you say signings only or trades?
Yeah. So this one will just be free agent signings.
I'm excited. I hope I get to be there for one of those. That'll be a pleasure to hear that list.
We'll figure it out. I'm off to Chicago in a few days, and I'll be back next week. But thank you guys for listening to the Incline Dodgers podcast. Whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform, leave a review, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, drop a comment below, and let us know what you're looking forward to the most during this spring